Barry Smith with M2MPolitics.com joins us. Representative Dale Folwell is on earlier in this segment, says this special session was not solely about the gay marriage amendment. What else got done down here?
Well, they did do a handful of other things. They did do things like tidy up some stuff that was left hanging from the previous session. But let's make no mistake about it. It was about this constitutional amendment. This was the gay marriage amendment was the dominant theme this week at the General Assembly in downtown Raleigh.
What do you make of the party breakdown, the intra-party breakdown? It wasn't lockstep on a lot of these votes. I guess the Senate Democrats were able to show they voted all in favor, and I guess Senate Republicans did too. But folks were missing out of that chamber during that vote.
Well, if you're missing on a constitutional amendment, the effect is the same as voting no, because you have to have 3/5 of the entire membership. So what counts is the yes votes. The no votes, if you weren't there, basically there's really no practical difference in voting no and just not being there. So if you're not there from a practical standpoint, you could just be taking a walk. I really don't like this. I'm tired of it.
How do you interpret the proponents of this bill? How do you interpret their argument that this is needed as a constitutional amendment right now?
Well, I keep asking them what does it do to actually help marriage? We hear it is to protect marriage. The only real thing you can say is it protects the definition of marriage. It will say marriage is between one man and one woman. As far as actually protecting the institution, I'm not sure state law can do that.
Looking at the definition of the word about the contracts, private parties can enter into contracts, which seems to suggest that private companies may offer employees who have domestic partners, same-sex domestic partners, some benefits. Mm-hmm. Opponents say they see the word contract and think, no, tangible contract, not employee-employer relationship. How is that playing out? Is that playing with the words?
Well, obviously this was added. This was not even in there originally, the private contract. And one of the criticisms about a previous version of this bill was that it could prohibit private companies from offering benefits to same-sex partners. I think that was done to try to allay those fears. Now we've got a situation here where the state really can't do that, nor can any state institution. So you're going to get in a situation where there are a handful of counties and cities that currently offer same-sex benefits, health benefits, that sort of thing. They won't be able to do that. You will also have a situation where a private university might be able to do that, but a public university won't. Duke might be able to if it wants to. UNC would not be able to if the people governing that wanted to.
Republicans say a state constitutional amendment will take a state lawsuit out of the equation. Is that true in how you interpret this? It has to go through a federal court, maybe eventually when the U.S. Supreme Court, if ever, weighs in on this issue?
If the only way it would really help from a judge and judicial standpoint is if it were challenged in the state courts. Then the state courts would say, well, this is what the Constitution says. We have to go by what the Constitution says. That wouldn't really bind a federal judge. If the federal courts and, like you said, the United States Supreme Court gets a hold of it and says, well, this violates the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution supersedes anything that would be in the North Carolina Constitution.
The vibe I got down here this week during the discussion of this bill doesn't pass an amendment to the state constitution. It allows the people to vote on it. Well, why is one side acting as if it's a foregone conclusion? Why are the opponents of this bill resigned? It seems that this will be part of the state constitution.
Well, I don't know that they are resigned. I covered.
I got the sense that there was a defeated attitude here.
I covered a rally the other day, and they were of people who were against this amendment, and I'm sure they're adamant. They're going to wage. It's going to be a big battle over the next few months, up until May the 8th. Yes, the people are going to be voting on it. They are voting on whether to ratify what the General Assembly has already done. So we don't have that many things that actually go before the people in a vote like this, and this will be put to them. Now, polls are showing us different things on this. Polls are showing that there appears to be a shift in the way a lot of people believe on this issue. A lot of people maybe believe that, okay, yeah, marriage really ought to be between a man and a woman, but not necessarily civil unions, or not necessarily that we need to put it in the Constitution. And again, the polls vary. Usually the ones that show who votes, they're more in favor of it, but the overall population appears.
But would you see that if those polls you're suggesting say a shift back maybe away from this amendment vote, are you seeing that as a liberal shift or a libertarian shift?
Probably more of a libertarian shift. I think it's more of a
government get out of the way.
And I think a lot of people see it as not really affecting them. So, if you want to do that, if someone wants to do that, let them do that. It's not really affecting me. I'm still going to have my family, and I'm going to be able to do and raise my family the way I want to.
So do you think if people aren't affected by it, do you think they'll even care? The mass, not the red meat primary voter who will certainly turn out for this. In North Carolina, what's it to them if they're not going to ever be affected by this provision?
If they're not ever going to be affected by this, and if they're not really interested in who's going to be on the ballot on May the 8th, either the Republican primary or the Democratic primary, then they may not. I mean, if they wouldn't show up to vote anyway, I don't see them showing up specifically to vote on this if it's not something that's really a high priority for them.
Barry Smith, m2mpolitics.com. Visit that website because Barry works hard on it. Thank you, sir, for sharing your insight on the show.
Thank you.